Hey there, YouTube friends. Dustin Bellinger here again, and I'm bringing you some additions to my Nebraska-related autographs collection. Got a couple different ones to show you here. I'm going to start off with this one, which is out of the norm for me in that it is not a sports-related autograph, at least really directly. This is an autograph of the current governor of the state, Pete Ricketts. And although Pete does have a bit of a connection to sports in that him and members of his family are the owners of the Chicago Cubs. Really, I just came across this autograph on eBay and was like, hey, that's interesting. Apparently, this guy, made up a custom set of cards, one for each state governor, and sent them out. He made two sets, and he sent two of the cards to each governor, and did the traditional thing. Hey, keep one for yourself, and please sign the other one and send it back to me. Well, he says that there were several governors that signed both cards and sent him. So the ones that he had doubles of, he was putting up for sale. And I paid all of, $4 for this, including shipping. I was just like, I'm not a fan of Pete by any means, but it's like, that's kind of a unique addition to the Nebraska autograph collection. And I've been thinking, hey, it's time to expand that a little bit more. It's mostly athletes and almost exclusively male athletes, so just trying to expand the horizons there. So that was that one. This next one here is Nebraska high school athlete Drew Christo. Now Drew here, he throws in the mid-90s, and he was named the Gatorade Baseball Player of the Year for the state of Nebraska this past year. He's signed to play with the Nebraska Cornhuskers starting next season, and he was considered a potential draft pick in the latest MLB draft, but he kind of took his name out late in the process by, announcing on Twitter that, he was committed to staying an amateur for now and going on to pursue college baseball. And so then, by that point, the draft was in its later rounds, and no team decided to try and pick him and try and have to pay a higher bonus to convince him to change his mind. There you can see the info on it. Supposedly this is a pre-production proof, 1 of 1. I don't know. It's kind of strange because this little certificate thing here is not actually part of the card, and the card's kind of a thin thing. I've seen several similar ones called 1 of 1s sold on eBay for him, and all from Leaf, and the way they do things with their 30 different variations sometimes is kind of odd. But it's like, I paid a little bit more than you would think you'd want to pay for a guy that's hasn't even pitched a single game of college baseball. But the thing was, it's like, well, if later on he does well, I would certainly was going to want his autograph at some point anyway. So it's like, hey, I pay $10 now. be worth it later on. All right, now here we go. This one's kind of the big one for me, and this was a really poor choice that somebody had for, hey, what pen I'm going to have used to sign this card. Now, if I kind of, you can tell it's there. It's just so hard to make out on that black shirt, this black Sharpie. But this is an autograph of Rulan Gardner. It's been PSA DNA authenticated, which I was like, oh, this card went so cheap. I was like, even though the autograph, it's as far as visually, it's not great, but it just was something I couldn't pass up to be able to have this in the collection. So, little quick story here on Rulan. Rulan was from Wyoming and ended up coming to Nebraska as a wrestler. And he is best known for the 2000 Sydney Olympics. He competed in Greco-Roman wrestling, and he upset in the gold medal match a Russian wrestler, Alexander Kalin or something like that, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Anyway, the Russian wrestler that he wrestled in that gold medal match was a legend in the sport. He had not lost in international competition for 13 years preceding this match. And in fact, he had gone 6 years without giving up a point to anybody he faced. So he was a heavy favorite, and Rulan managed to beat him and win the gold medal. It kind of catapulted him into fame there. And he followed that up with a bronze medal in 2004. And one of the cool things, about wrestling, it's not a sport I follow that much or I'm a big fan of, but one thing that wrestlers have, amateur wrestling, is kind of a tradition in the sport. When you're calling it quits, the kind of the symbolic gesture is you take off your shoes at the end of the match and you leave them there in the center of the ring and walk away. And, that's to, symbolize that you've come to the end of your journey in that sport. And that's what he did there at the 2004 Olympics after his bronze medal win, which I always think is kind of a cool moment to see in sports there, where, somebody, knows right there in the moment that this is the last thing for them. And Rulan, he's got a life story that is kind of like a Ripley's Believe It or Not. It starts when he was in middle school, or no, not even elementary school. He was actually suffered an injury where he had his stomach punctured by an arrow in a show and tell incident gone wrong in elementary school, and actually, was the start of strange injuries that Rulan suffered. Now, after his 2000 gold medal win, it was approximately 2 years later, or I believe I think it was 2 years later. He is out in Idaho with some friends on like this hunting, camping excursion in the winter time. And he's out on he gets separated from his group out on his snowmobile and gets lost. And he ends up accidentally dropping the snowmobile into the river while he's in it, and getting himself wet out there. And so he's like building a makeshift shelter to try and survive as he's out there in freezing temperatures and wet clothes. And he talks about, he actually got to the point where he stopped shivering, and he recognized that as a point where he was potentially near death, because his body's actually stopping trying to keep you warm. And he was found after being out there for about 18 hours after he had gone into the water, and was rescued. However, he actually had to have his boots that he was wearing removed with a saw because they were so frozen. And he actually ended up having to have the middle toe on one of his feet amputated, which, being the strange kind of guy that Rulan is, he kind of kept that as a souvenir to remind him of his own mortality. And he kept that toe in like some formaldehyde in his fridge. But that's, getting out there into the weird stuff, but just so unique guy. And on top of that, he had like a motorcycle accident that he injured his wrist somewhere in there too. After the 2004 Olympics, I believe in 2007, he was actually in a small plane with a couple other people that crashed into a lake. And him and the three other people on board all had to swim about an hour in very cold water to shore, and had to wait about a day before they were rescued. And none of them, suffered life-threatening injuries from that one, but it was kind of one of those, definitely a remarkable tale that is fitting of Rulan's life. Anyway, just wanted to talk a little bit about that autograph. It's one that I'm really kind of excited to add to the collection. I'd been kind of doing searches for his autographs before, and I just hadn't been quite willing to pay for some of them. But I was like, where this one was already authenticated and slabbed, and I got it for just ridiculously cheap, less than $10. I just couldn't pass it up. So anyway, hope everybody's doing well. Once again, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and I'll talk to you again in my next video. Bye.